You know, I have an issue. I don't lose any sleep over this issue. Maybe issue is not the word, but I just have something that I need to make perfectly clear. Maybe a couple things in this particular sitting. First of all, I'm never disrespecting anyone. In this particular instance, I'm talking about martial arts practitioners, experts, masters, and so forth. Because one of the first lessons that we are learning when we begin in martial arts is to have respect for everyone, our neighbors, humanity, and to remain humble under all circumstances. And nothing has changed with me. I have been that article from the very first day I ever started martial arts up until this present time. I don't have any dragons to slay, as they say. I don't look for any awards in the things that I say, a whole lot of accolades. I just tell it like it is. And unfortunately, there are segments of our society that don't like the truth. And even though the truth exposes things, so I'm not beating up on Master Chuck Norris, martial arts master Chuck Norris of Tong Sudo and the martial arts movies that he's done and his television series Walker Texas Range and all of the other manifold things that he's accomplished. As a matter of fact, if you've seen me talk about anyone in the martial arts and I said something that was controversial with some because they were followers of those particular individuals that I mentioned, you would always see me give them credit for their prowess at what they did and even what they're doing today. So that's not changing. I'm not a person that keeps going back and forth. I don't keep flipping two different directions. I'm the same all the time. I don't care where I am. I'm the same individual, the same person that I've always been, and I'm going to say what I see and what I believe to be the truth. So I have a great deal of respect for Chuck Norris as a person in the martial arts, a martial arts figure. But there seems to be some individuals that think I don't like him. That's not true. I love everyone. So now let me get to the crux of the matter. I can still tell the truth, right? I would want someone to tell me the truth if I've done something or if they don't agree with anything that I'm saying or even doing. Tell me the truth. That's me. But that doesn't seem to be commonplace with some these days. People want so much notoriety. People want so much in the way of attention that they love to embellish the truth to further their sometimes agendas. So I did a video some years ago, several years ago, that Chuck Norris didn't respect Bruce Lee was the title of the video. I didn't believe that Chuck Norris respected Bruce Lee. I'm not saying that Chuck Norris didn't respect Bruce Lee as a human being. He didn't respect Bruce Lee as his equal or better. Just to clarify that for some, Chuck Norris thought that he was as good as or better than Bruce Lee. More the latter, I believe. There are people who said that Chuck Norris could have whipped Bruce Lee or beat Bruce Lee if it came down to it. Even Chuck Norris' son said his father would have killed Bruce Lee in a street fight. That's not even debatable. Anyone who knows, really knows martial arts, who has really put some time in martial arts. Now, I'm not talking about tournament competitions, point karate tournaments. I'm not talking about that. Who's truly vested in this thing called martial science. You know better. So, here we go. Again, Chuck Norris is a very good karateka or Tong Soo Do practitioner. I respect that. But never ever would he have stood a chance against the late Bruce Lee. In a fight, Bruce Lee had blinding speed. Chuck Norris couldn't match that. Bruce Lee had such a diversity of technique and agility. Chuck Norris couldn't match that. He just couldn't. Now, I could mention other people too that would have not met the grade with Bruce Lee. And that's not trying to put Bruce Lee on a pedestal, but it seems to be the talk these days, especially these past couple years. When I say anything about Bruce Lee, people are saying that he's overrated and that he was just an actor. Victor Moore was another person who said that Bruce Lee was just an actor. I don't believe all of the stories that he told about Bruce Lee. Taking Bruce Lee and him tagging Bruce Lee in the chest and that they had a miniature sparring match. We have not seen any documentation, any film of that. Haven't seen that. But he says it happened. And he did call Bruce Lee an actor. This kid that was an actor. You mean the actor? That's what Victor Moore said. Chuck Norris, in so many words, said Bruce Lee was an actor and he was not a fighter. And then Chuck Norris also touted that he was a professional fighter. Now, I have placed a link, or I'm going to place a link at the bottom of this video where Chuck Norris is talking about Chuck Norris at the Conan O'Brien show some years ago, many years ago. And basically what he's saying is that Bruce Lee was beneath him. He said this: when I held the world title. Chuck Norris is talking about himself, of course. World title. For what? Fighting? Chuck Norris was a point karate fighter. If he was the world champion, middleweight world champion 6 times or 6 years in a row, it was for point fighting. That's not real fighting. Okay? It's not. And then he made another statement, and I quote, "He respected me because of my ability as the world champion at the time." That's what he was saying to Conan O'Brien when Conan O'Brien was asking him questions about he and Bruce Lee sparring or fighting. And when Conan asked him, did you and Bruce Lee ever mix it up? Did you ever get into it real heavy, fighting and so forth? This is what Chuck Norris responded with. No, I was a professional fighter. I fought professionally. Bruce was very good, but he fought. He said he never fought in the ring. Fighting in the ring and having someone kicking back at you is a whole different story. But you know what? Chuck Norris never fought in the ring as a kickboxer. As a full contact fighter, he never did that. He had been in the ring before doing point sparring. There was a referee in the middle, stopped him when he scored a point, take him back to the starting line or point, start again, score a point, he stops it, take him back to the starting line. Is that fighting? Does that make you a professional? At what? Point sparring. There's a difference, and I've said this many times before. Now, if I were to give credibility to someone being a point fighter, it may be Chuck Norris. But a real tough fighter, I would give it to Benny the Jet, Urquidez. He was a fighter. If you put those two together, Chuck Norris and Benny the Jet, I'd put my money on Benny the Jet, Urquidez. Yes, because he was more of a fighter than Chuck Norris was. I would have put my money on Bill Superfoot Wallace also, because he was in full contact karate. Chuck Norris was not. there is a demarcation line. There's a separation. Now, if it comes to a street fight, I would have took Bill Wallace, Benny Urquidez in a street fight over Chuck Norris back in the day. Would have. I'm sorry. So there are people under this illusion that when you win these championships in sport karate, it equates to being a real fighter, but it does not. The very reason that Bruce Lee never participated in sport tournaments is because he trained for real life. I cannot emphasize that any more than I already have. You don't want to participate in the sport if you're practicing for reality. So you can't put everybody in that same compartment and start to categorize them as not being a fighter just because they're not doing what you are doing. That was it. And that was all.